Hi, this is Todd Olthoff from toddolthoff.com coming back at you with another screencast. And this week we're going to take a look at the calendar service that's built into OS X Server. Now, the calendaring service is your own hosted calendar service, and so it allows you to set up your own push notifications to all of your clients and allows you to access your calendars on your own private server. For some of you that may be in businesses where you don't want your calendars accessible on anybody else's cloud, you can create your own cloud, so to speak, by having calendars hosted on your server instead of theirs. And so for those of you that have some privacy concerns in particular businesses you might be involved in, maybe HIPAA requirements and things like that, this will at least give you the opportunity to have your own hosted calendar server. So let's go ahead and take a look at this service. This is the service here in OS X Server, and you can see we've got the similar things that we have in all of the various services, as I usually cover. You can see the status is offline. Right now the service is off because we haven't started it. Again, we can change permissions for who can access the server. We can say all users, only some users, or all networks, private networks, or only some networks. And so we can specify what networks we want to have used there. In this case, we're just going to leave them at the default, but as always, I just wanted to show you what each button and how it functions on the server. Now down here we have the option of sending invitations, and so we can enable invitations by email. If I just click that checkbox there, I'll get this drop down. That's going to read the calendar settings, and it's going to configure mail for calendar. Kind of sets up a whole bunch of different things here for me. And once we get that done configuring and it's reading the settings, then we can go ahead and set this up. And you can see here it gives an email address. Again, it says enter the email account that you want to use to send calendar invitations. Again, it should be a dedicated server email account. And that's really important in this case. If you use a different email address, let's say for a different hosted email service, what's going to happen is you may run into some problems there because the calendar service will ping often just to see if there's anything that's showing up there in the calendaring service, especially if you send anything out, and it could cause your email provider to think that someone's trying to attack your account and they might shut it down. So I've had that happen in the past, so you want to make sure that it is a dedicated email account so they can reply to emails at this particular address. So I'm just going to leave it at the default for right now. Going to say next. And so here it's going to set up the the email account information. You can see the email server account. You can do IMAP or POP, the incoming mail server, and the username and password for the calendaring server. Now this will obviously need to work with your particular mail server, which in this case, you would need to set up your own mail service for that to work. That's how it's designed. But I wanted to show you how this works. If you're not using a mail server, then you won't have those email confirmations that'll be sent out. Let's go ahead and click next, and this is the outgoing information here, and then I say next again, and now here is all of the information that it's going to set up my email account. Like I said, in my case, I'm not going to use this, but just wanted to show you how this is set up. So I'm going to say cancel, and so it's going to stay unchecked there. And I can always edit the invitation settings anytime I want to once I have it set up. Now, in terms of push notifications, we've got those enabled. We showed you how to enable those on the contacts screencast that we did last week. And so they stay enabled now for all of the services because it's set up. Now, in Calendar down below, we have the option of setting up locations and resources here in order to make our calendaring service work. So let me just click the plus button here and show you how this works. You can see here I can set up a location or a resource, and so the location would be where the meeting will take place, and a resource would be, let me just click on that, something that you might check out, such as a projector, as you can see here, or any other resources that you might have, let's say in your office or whatever, that you want to delegate or have available for being checked out. So I'm just going to come back to location. Let me show you how to set each of these up. So what I'm going to do is set it up for my home. And so here I've got the living room. So I'm going to set up the living room here. And that's a location in my house. I can also add an address in here. And so let me just do that. I'm happen to have, let's say, Apple's address here. And so I'll just put that in. You can see one infinite loop in Cupertino. As soon as I click on that, you can see now it gives me this nice map with the actual location. Again, this is Apple's campus there. You can put in whatever you want. You notice too we've got the longitude and latitude put below, so it will find any of those locations that you might have in your address book. And so you can go ahead and do that for different buildings and locations and such. And so there's where we've got our living room. Now you can also add a delegate, and so a delegate would be a person who can approve or not approve calendars, who can make changes to the calendar. For instance, if I just typing my name here, you'll see that I get this drop down and I can add my name there as a delegate. And so I'll go ahead and do that. And so now it's got me as a delegate. I can also do scheduling, and I've got different options for scheduling. If I just click on this, the default is accept if free or decline if busy. And so that means, again, if the space is all taken up, if it's already busy and taken, then it will automatically decline it, but it'll accept it if it's free. Or you can say accept all invitations, accept invitations if free only, but not do a decline. You can also set it up to require delegate approval, and that would mean that the delegate has to approve it before it can be sent out or even scheduled on the calendar. And so that's a nice option in there. You can also decline invitations if busy or decline all invitations. It depends on what you want to set up. You can see how that works there. I'm going to leave it on the default, accept if free, decline if busy. Now I can also have an accept group, so invitations from members of the group will always be accepted. And so again, if I typed in my group like kids, for instance, you see there's my kids group, and that will come up. And so in fact, let me just backspace that again. Let's go kids. If I click on it, there we go. So the kids group will be on there, and so I can have that group be the accept group or not. I'm going to go ahead and just delete that for our cases. So that gives you an idea of how to set up a location. When we're done, we just say create. And it's going to create that location in our calendaring service. And you can see there's our living room, and you can see it tells us it's a location type. So let's add one more. Let's go ahead and add a resource here. And so one of the resources that we've got in our house, let's say the Apple TV. So we got Apple TV in the house, and so I want to make sure we schedule that. Let's say everybody wants to watch their shows on it, but we want to make sure we schedule it. So again, I can have a delegate on here if I want. And so if I just put myself down again, there we go as a delegate, and I'll leave the same settings there. And I can do the same thing with a group if I want to or not, but in this case I'm going to leave that alone and just say create. And so now it's going to create that. And you see I've got a living room and the Apple TV as a resource. And so that sets that up for me, so I've got those resources all set and ready to go. So now that I've got all of this done, and again, if I ever want to edit it, I can just come in here and I can go like this and say, well, maybe I don't want a delegate there. So I'm going to say OK and save that. And maybe I want to do the same thing for the location. Let's go ahead and edit that. Say I don't want a delegate. Kind of gives you an idea of how this works. And so I can edit them, and once I do that, then everything's put back and we're good to go. I can always delete them just by hitting the minus as well. So now that we've got this set up, let's go ahead and turn the service on. And again, it's going to ask us, like it always does, since we've got an Airport Extreme connected, if we want the ports opened automatically so we can access it remotely. So we're going to say allow to allow that to happen. And you can see now it's starting the service. And we'll wait until it's all done configuring the service there. It'll say starting, and then it'll eventually tell us that it's available once all the services have been set up. Okay, so now the service is up and running. You can see that the service is available on my local network right here. Now, normally this should show your host name, but it all depends on Apple's reachability service. That's up here in the server tab. You can see mine's stuck here on loading, so Apple's been having some problems with the server. So if you don't see that yet, it could just be that this service isn't functioning properly. And so you may want to just test your services to see if they're available on the outside. They probably will be. It looks like it's probably just an error in Apple's servers. So now that I've got that all set up and ready to go, let me go over to a client and show you how to set up the calendar service there. Okay, so here we are over on a screen share with one of my other computers. And so I want to show you how to set up the calendar service on your other machines. Now, in my previous screencast, I showed you how to set up the connection to OS X Server in the accounts area. And so I want to show you how to add the calendar service to that now. So if I come up here to calendar and I just go to accounts, it's going to pull up the system preferences internet accounts for me. And you can see right here is where I added the OS X Server account. For those of you that didn't see that particular screencast, you would just come here and hit the plus button in here, and you're going to add another account or an OS X, and it'll have an OS X Server account on there. But since we've already added this, you notice that all of the different services that I have available show up in this Internet Accounts window. And all I need to do is check this calendar service, and you can see automatically it adds the calendars over here. This is probably the best way to do this. It works a lot more smoothly that way. You could, if you wanted to, come into calendars here under Preferences. And if you wanted to do it this way, you could add an account. If I just hit the plus here, you can see that I could add an other CalDAV account. I'm just going to show you what this looks like. In here, you would change this to manual. You would put in your username, your password, and then your server's address, like server.example.com. And then you would sign in, and it would add a CalDAV account over here to the side. I just wanted to show you that you could do that if you wanted to, but the cleanest way to do it is to do it with an OS X server account. And so we just want to make sure over here that we're enabling this account so that it's up and running. You see we've got our calendar over here. I can do some delegation with it, and if I wanted to add delegates to work on this calendar, I could do that just by clicking the edit button here and then put in the name of the delegate. And if I wanted to do that, I'm just going to say done because there are no delegates on here. And you can see I can refresh the calendars however I want, with push or with every minute or manually, or however I want to set that up. All right, so that's kind of how that works. We got the account set and ready to go here. So let me just go ahead and pop off of this for a minute. So here's our calendar. You can see it says OS X Server up there. And so what I'm going to do is just add an event just to kind of show you how this might work. So I'm going to go for Friday evening here. Let's see. Well, that says 9 a.m. So let's go ahead and change this to, let's try 7 p.m. There we go. And so what we're going to do is call this event, let's say movie night. Watch a movie, 7 to 8, that's fine. Now I can add a location in here. And so as I said before, we have the living room. And there we go. You can see our conference room right there. We have the living room, and so that's been added. You can see the check boxes there. I can copy the location. I can remove the location and all of that right from here. So that's how I add the locations on there. And then I can come down here too and add some other stuff. Like I can add an invitee if I wanted to. Okay, and I can add in here the name. So let's just put in my name here. And so you can see I've been invited, and again I can remove the invitee, add to contacts, invite again, send an email. I've got options for doing that. I can check availability as well on the calendar, and you can see here I've got the person's name. I'm the organizer, living room, and you can see where I've got space, and here's where they want to schedule this. And so I've got that scheduled and ready to go. You can see that the movie night is in a zone where I don't have anything going on. So I can say done, and I can say send on here. And so now I have set up that movie night. It's all set on my calendar, and that's been sent and is ready to go. Okay, now one more thing I just wanted to show you is in the case where you want to share a calendar with multiple users. So let's say you've got a work group, like maybe you want to have the sales team have the same calendar, or maybe in just your home setting you want to have the whole family have a shared calendar. When you set up a calendar's service and an account on an individual computer for a user, it's their personal calendaring setup. So it won't be shared between multiple users because you have to be logged into the same account. You can, however, add an account that could be a shared calendaring account. So for instance, if you come in here to users, if you just add a user in here, and what I might do is just call this user, like if it was the sales group, you'd call it sales, or shared calendar, something like that. You would then go ahead and add a password and everything, and then add this account. And with home folder, I would just say services only, so it's only a services account. And you would add this user, and then on each of your Macs or your iOS devices, you would go in and add the shared calendar as the account name and whatever password you have set up for it, and then that calendar will be shared among all of those various users. So again, it's one way to be able to set that up. Again, if you're setting up by department or if you're doing it for a family calendar, that's one way you can set it up with the shared services. So that's all I have for this week on Calendar. Hopefully that helps you get the calendaring service set up and running in your own server instance. So that's all I have for this week. I'll be back at you next week with another screencast to help you learn how to do more things with your Mac.